And the reason that a Calvinist like Paul Washer has to warn his crowd not to be passive is because that's the natural implication of their systematic, is that it would lead to passivity. It would lead to the concepts of understanding that we're not really responsible for this. And so Calvinists have to continually warn their hearers not to become passive, because that's the natural tendency of the audience of Calvinists. You have to warn against the natural implications of your systematic and try to warn people, hey, you don't act like you're not really responsible. You have to act like you're really responsible, even though technically we don't believe you're actually able to respond, that God will effectually or irresistibly cause that to happen in some way. And so I think that needs to be brought to bear as well.
In my 46 years of living here in the United States, I've spent a lot of time in Africa. When I have spoken to men, especially young men, why they've abandoned not only God, but loyalty to their own people and country for video games, pornography, smoking weed, they will say that feminism has destroyed his ability to have a trad family, so F it. I'm smoking weed, playing video games, and watching porn. And to discount what he is saying is perilous. There's a lot of truth to what he's saying. The truth is their boomer father chose their television and their air conditioners over adult pursuits of theology and politics, and women lost respect for them. They found their way of life boring, and the women here foolishly concluded that a life of promiscuous sex would make them happy. When I've spoken to women, they will say that biblical patriarchy is tyranny, and she wants to have fun and fool around with numerous men. She will make the excuse that elite men, she'll say men, but what she really means is elite men. It's what's called an apex fallacy, that men have sex with many women. So women should be able to have sex with a lot of men, which is Pelagianism. It's the Pelagian idea of universal morality, of there being moral symmetry in the world, not only with men, but God. And we've already seen Leighton Flowers has admitted that very thing. And that was what my video about C.S. Lewis was about just a couple days ago. When I've spoken to black people, they will say that they are victims of centuries of systemic white supremacy, which, is based on the Pelagian idea of equality of opportunity. Well, why is it wrong for one group to be superior, one inferior? Well, because of the Pelagian doctrine of equality of opportunity. Pelagianism is the driving force of all the immorality here. And so the black folks in this country say, F it. I'm going to act out the thug life persona of Tupac Shakur because, I don't get Pelagian equality of opportunity. Pelagianism is the direct intellectual cause of his choice. Direct. When I've spoken to educated people, that's just like the masses. When I've spoken to educated people, of course, they'll say, well, the earth's a globe. The Bible says it's flat, which it very clearly does. Proverbs chapter 8 and Psalm 19 are inescapable. The Bible condones slavery. They'll say Darwinism, dinosaurs. Because of these things, they've rejected faith in God and Christ. An obscure example would be, Jesus is supposed to come back already, the kind of preterist psyop from Matthew chapter 24, and then, the Christ myth stuff that Jesus is based on some kind of, embellishment of pagan myths from the ancient world. Never, not one time, have I ever heard anyone justify their derelict, sinful lifestyle by saying that Jesus didn't die for them, or they tried to use some kind of extension from Calvinism to justify what they're doing. Never in my life have I ever heard this. Not only in my own individual life, but as I am reading the history of the world in the United States. I'm an author of over 28 books. I've written 28 books, read countless thousands of books in my life, and never has the immorality and degeneracy that we see around us ever been justified on the basis of Calvinism. Ever. Ever. Please, someone show me if someone really serious, influential in the world has said this. I'd love to see it. It's the Pelagian notion of individuals taking responsibility that is the problem. When equality of opportunity and equal rights is in place, which is the Pelagian milieu, as it has been for many years, decades here, which all came from Pelagian Christianity. If you don't believe me, see Dinesh D'Souza's book, What's So Great About Christianity, Chapter 7. The common people do everything they can to avoid personal responsibility. And, this is not a new thing. We read Judges chapter 17, verse 6. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Now, the Bible says that the morality of the masses of people is determined by institutional authoritarian government. That's what the Bible says, which we know none of these Pelagians believe. The man who ruined institutional theocratic government in the West was a Baptist by the name of Roger Williams, one of Leighton's brothers. And Leighton has admitted that Baptists are indeed to blame for the rise of religious disestablishment in his video, Is Reformation Day Only for the Calvinists? He's admitted it, and he's proud of it. Well, he'll never deny that. The truth is, the real causes of irreligion and immorality in the world are the basic tenets of Pelagianism, assuming people are good, or at the very least avoiding the fact of total depravity, which, by the way, is the whole reason the law of Moses was given. Galatians 3:19, the law was added, therefore not natural law, therefore completely refuting Pelagian worldview. The law was added because of transgressions, Paul says in Galatians 3:19. Number two, assuming the best of people, especially Roman Catholics. That really was a big one here. We, as I've proved in my Occupied by Rome documentary, Joseph P. Kennedy in his league with Sam Giancana and Lucky Luciano and the Italian mafia basically muscled his son's way, JFK, into office in the United States after they had pillaged our gold and gave it to the Nazis. Which is an absolute fact, and they've basically overturned the government, all, ladies and gentlemen, as an extension of Pelagian Baptist policies. And, number three, assuming the masses of people care about the truth or even deserve the opportunity to be a scholar. Everyone thinks they're a scholar nowadays. And, I don't know of one man who has gotten himself seriously involved with the internet who hasn't destroyed his life, other than myself and the guys who follow my work. All of them, these guys, they spend decades on the internet, and they never do anything. They can never unite with any other people. They never come into any kind of community with each other. I'll tell you one right off the top of my head, and I'm steel manning this. Ab from Fakeologist. He's been doing his work for decades on the Fakeology channel. Decades. No community, no solutions offered whatsoever in the real world. He's been doing this for decades. Deliberating on the truth and what's real and what's fake on the news. And they got nothing. Just total waste of time. And that's a steel man. I could give you thousands of examples of this. Reformed Stoic, this dude that followed my work for a while, ruined his life on the internet. Personal friends I'm not going to talk about. And this lunatic idea that Leighton has in his mind that we have a problem with lethargy. Lethargy? Lethargy is the problem in this country? Sir, we are run by a bunch of rabid radicals, activists. That's what's going on here. If you want the history of this whole thing, Studies in Perfectionism by B.B. Warfield, the most important political book in the history of this country. The Pelagians had laid out their doctrine of perfection with John Wesley. And this doctrine grew into a sexual model. Basically the idea was, well, because we've entered into this age of perfection, as the early Gnostic Christians taught, as Joachim taught, as John Wesley and the Pelagians taught, we no longer need institutions of government, institutions of the family, of course, institution of slavery, which is the exact reason why it was done away with. This was in the Oneida community in New York, and who created the Oneida community? Two Pelagians, Charles Finney and John Humphrey Noyes, and their organization becomes the foundation of the work of Aleister Crowley and Alfred Kinsey, who taught them. a woman from the Oneida community. Yeah. And her name was Ida Craddock. She was the mentor of Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley had a student named Kenneth Anger. Kenneth Anger had a student buddy named Alfred Kinsey, and Alfred Kinsey's work literally becomes law in this country in the Model Penal Code with his sexual behavior in the human male, sexual behavior in the human female. These are not anecdotes, ladies and gentlemen. I am giving you leading figures of this country. The leading figures, all of them Baptists and Pelagians, all of them. And this whole idea that we have a problem with complete radical lunatics in this country. The main problem we face now is the voice of real intellectuals is being swamped out by the millions of mouth-breathing idiots on the mainstream media, on the internet, social media, who have been given a channel to vomit their mental bile onto the human race because Pelagians and Baptists taught this idea of equality of opportunity. Roger Williams, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., Earl Warren, Alfred Kinsey, Francis Willard. Again, you guys want to complain about feminism? Who was the founding, or at least the woman who brought the Women Christian Temperance Union, the founding feminist movement in this country? Who is it led by? A Wesleyan Pelagian Christian named Francis Willard. And you're going to tell me that immorality in this country is caused by Calvinism? That's precious. This is the Southern Israelite signing off. Go to my platform website, southernprotestant.com. Go to my donation link there in the description if you find this video to be profitable and valuable to you. Southern Israelite out. Peace.